Hello everyone, Lytro Storm here, and today we're going back to our variation of What If Goku Landed on Namek. If you want to recap of the last part, I'll do so now, but you'll have to watch the first part to know what built up to that, and also watch the second part to have the details. So Raditz killed almost everyone on Earth and headed back to Namek, where he found Kakarot and convinced him to join him. They then trained with Vegeta and Nappa, but the strength wasn't enough, and so they headed back to Namek to recruit Nail. At the same time, Yamcha and Bulma's son Trunks was training on the lookout to beat Raditz, and so he also ended up on Namek with Dr. Gero and Android 16. They wished for everyone killed by Raditz to come back before Trunks raged out against the Saiyan. All of the Saiyans being on Namek at once allowed for Frieza to easily destroy the planet and all of them, but Guru made a wish to send everyone to another planet. So I looked back at the poll and Earth won overwhelmingly. So this means that Kakarot, Nail, Vegeta, Nappa, Raditz, 16, Trunks, and Gero are all sent to Earth. A lot of people suggested scattering them, and while it is a pretty cool idea, I doubt Guru would make a wish so specific. I mean, think about it. Send them to another planet is a lot easier to think of, and you can say it a lot faster than scatter them across multiple planets, you know, when you're about to be killed. Alright, but before we get into this, if you guys want part 4 to come as soon as possible, I'll start working on it if this video can hit 300 likes. But anyway, as always, be sure to join my Discord and follow me on Twitter. Links in the description. Alright, so let's get into this. For starters, I want to say any power levels you see on screen that contradict previous ones are because I've changed them to more logically fit. This will happen a lot in What Ifs, as getting the scaling right is a key part that could change the story. But for now, everyone appears on Earth. Kakarot is quickly wondering where they are, and Gero recognizes this wasteland as his home planet. He then says that now the majority of Earthlings should be back, although King Piccolo's reign has still largely affected the planet. Trunks pipes up, yelling that now his mother and father should be alive, and he rushes off to go find his mother. Along with this, Gero remembers that now King Piccolo is also alive, and so he takes 16 and travels over, easily knocking him onto the ground. 16's scanners then detect an egg, which they assume must be King Piccolo's. This means that the tie between Kami and Piccolo would still live on so long as this child lives. Perhaps they'd be able to take the evil from this child over time. With that, Gero takes revenge for his son all that time ago and kills the Demon King. He and 16 then travel back up to the lookout, where they begin speaking to Kami and Popo about everything that has happened. Trunks darts to where Kame House used to be before it was wiped from existence by Raditz, and finds his mother swimming in the ocean. He quickly rushes in and grabs her, flying through the air. Bulma yells for him to put her down, and so he flies toward the land and sets her down, telling her that it was him, Trunks. Bulma is shocked with how tall he was, asking how much time it had been, and how they had brought her back to life. Trunks told her it was only about 10 months, as remember, the 9 months of training with Popo, and then the 1 month to travel to Namek. The other 2 were for traveling back, which they never did since they were transported to Earth, and the last month was just in case anything bad happened. Trunks had also done a bit of training in the time chamber, so now he was basically a year older. He was now 8. Anyway, after he explained this, he flew her to his father's energy, where he set her down and rushed to hug him. Yamcha was also taken aback by how tall his son was, but senses his energy while hugging him. He laughs, saying that now he was stronger than him. Tao and Shen walk toward the group, wondering how they were brought back. And so Trunks begins flying back to the Saiyans, and Nail telling them along the way. Eventually they make it to them, where Trunks introduces Nail with utmost respect. As for the Saiyans though, he lumped them all together with Raditz for killing all the people on Earth. They all arrived on Namek together, so it was more of an association thing rather than a race thing. Yamcha looks Raditz directly in the eyes, with an angry expression sprouting from his face. But just then, Gero landed, telling them that Kami and Popo wanted to speak to all of them. They all then flew to the lookout. Once they got there, Kami revealed that he was informed of everything that happened by Popo and Gero, and so he wants to plan a way to get Namek back and defeat Frieza. He suggests they use the Dragon Balls a year from now to wish to find Frieza and then take him on. Everyone agrees with this, and Trunks asks if they'll be training with him and Popo. The Guardian of Earth says that, rather than that, they will be training together, and this sets everyone off. For the most part, everyone dislikes Vegeta, Nappa, and especially Raditz. Nail is also not too fond of Kakarot at the moment due to bringing the Saiyans to Namek, which led to its destruction. That's when Yamcha steps up. Yamcha looks at Kami and walks directly in front of him. "What kind of god are you, if you couldn't even make an attempt to protect the people you were sworn to?" Kami had no response to this, and simply bowed his head down. As Yamcha went to leave along with Trunks, Kami then began explaining himself. "I was overcome with thoughts that Earthlings were greedy, and needed to solve their own problems. The Dragon Balls were created to bring fortune to those dedicated enough to find them. They were a gift to mankind, but they've been abused over and over. I had the opportunity to aid you, and I refused it. I caused you and all the other Earthlings so much pain, and for that, I am truly sorry." Yamcha turned around and looked at the god once more. He then walked over and placed his hand on his shoulder, causing him to lift his head up. Yamcha then uttered, "Let's start the training," and Kami smiled. Everyone had specific groups they wanted to train in, isolated from others they were unsure of, or had hatred towards. But Popo immediately put an end to that. He told them that if they stay away from each other in these bubbles, they'll never learn to overcome their emotions. And so, their first 2 months of training will be against the ones they despise the most. He thinks that this should also let out the rage that they've bottled in. And so, for the first 2 months, everyone who had emotional attachment to each other are restricted from sparring against one another. This led to several matchups with everyone against the Saiyans minus Kakarot. Of course, the bonds were never fully formed, but they could at least be around each other without attacking. And so, for the next 9 months, they trained against whoever they choose to, which led to massive development of relationships. Nail and Kakarot had finally made up, with Nail accepting that Kakarot made a mistake. However, deep down, the Saiyan was still angry that Nail only cared about Namek's well-being. That said, Raditz and everyone was still not on good terms. Only fine when they're going to battle. This led Vegeta and Nappa to make him even more in line with them, as it appeared they were the only ones who accepted him. Oh yeah, and Dr. Gero is a cyborg in this universe, not an android like in canon. That means that he doesn't really tire out, which leads to him training hard in the day and modifying 16 at night. And so, the final month came, and Kami and Popo had the perfect test for everyone. Spend a year in the time chamber. This final test would prove a challenge for everyone, as they weren't allowed to choose their partners. Kami decided that once again, if they were left to their own choices, they wouldn't be able to sync with their comrades when in battle. All 10 of them, minus 16 of course, would draw a number from 1 to 10. Typical tournament style. The first 2 would be Kakarot and Trunks, the second, Vegeta and Tao, the third, Yamcha and Raditz, the fourth, Nail and Shen, and finally, Nappa and Gero. And so Trunks and Kakarot enter. Their training starts with a little bit of getting used to the 10 times gravity, which doesn't take too long due to their power. They begin fighting quickly, talking to each other along the way. Trunks asks what Kakarot's motivation for fighting is, and he has 2 answers. 1, to protect the innocent, and 2, the most important one, to get stronger and push himself further beyond. Trunks is amazed by this, and agrees to the first one immediately, as that's all he had been doing. When it came to fighting, he actually revealed that he didn't really want to fight that much. He was just kind of forced to. Trunks understood the importance of being strong enough to protect yourself and protect the ones you love. But his true dream was to live out his father's dream, to become a baseball player. His father never got to live out this dream because he was too busy fighting against King Piccolo's forces. Kakarot sees himself in Trunks, which allows them to bond quickly, and by the time they leave the chamber, not only is their companionship far stronger, but so are they. I would say since Trunks is far weaker than Goku, he wouldn't be able to push himself as much, resulting in Trunks getting a massively higher boost, while Goku still gets a decent one. Sensing their amazing energies, Tao and Shen decide to make a choice. They choose to drop out of the training. They don't want to strain their lifespans, as they are already hundreds of years old. They will continue training outside of the chamber, but they can clearly see that they won't be able to keep up in this fight. Yamcha smiles and thanks them for their service, and Vegeta and Nail realize that they're out of a partner. Kami just tells them to go in together, and they do. The entire time, Nail is just bodying Vegeta until he gets strong enough to put up a decent fight. Nail sees Vegeta as nothing but a killer who led to the destruction of his planet, while Vegeta sees nothing but a weak Namekian. The two would push each other due to Vegeta's rapid growth to catch up to Nail, although at first the prince would be defeated easily. They both exit the chamber far stronger than ever before. The next two, Yamcha and Raditz, would enter, with massive hatred toward each other. Raditz had killed Bulma, Tao, Shen, and even Yamcha himself, along with the majority of Earthlings. He had also forced Trunks to become a warrior rather than get the chance to live a normal life. And Raditz hated Yamcha for just being an Earthling and fathering Trunks, who ruined his perfect plans on Namek by attacking him. And so the two fight over and over, but Yamcha is bodied every time. As only 3 months remain, Yamcha is finally capable of causing Raditz damage with his new technique, the Spirit Ball. They leave the room like everyone else, far stronger. Lastly, Gero and Nappa entered. Due to Gero's infinite engine, even though he was far weaker than Nappa, he could continue fighting without getting tired, resulting in a big boost for himself and a decent one for Nappa, as he could constantly fight Gero until he himself got tired. And so, everyone, including 16's current power levels, are on screen now. As you can see, they're all extremely powerful, as I've stated multiple times now. Bulma and Gero were working hard on another spaceship based on the one Kami had before, which was destroyed along with Namek. This resulted in a ship big enough for all the fighters to go in. Oh yeah, and also over the year, Kami and Popo were raising the young Piccolo Jr. to be a good person. Kami hopes that once most of the evil is drained from him, he will become the perfect blend of himself and Piccolo. And so Shenron was summoned, telling the crew that Frieza and his men were moving toward a planet called Kanassa. Now hold on a minute, Lytro. Weren't the Kanassans killed by Bardock and his crew? Well, yes, but actually no. You see, that happened in Bardock the father of Goku. However, there's nothing really from Dragon Ball Minus or Dragon Ball Super Broly to indicate that that happened. So we're going to roll with the idea that they were never attacked by the Frieza Force. That being said, they're also shown to be fodderized by that Bardock, who is around a 10,000 power level, but also shown taking attacks from Shugesh and Tora, who are basically average Saiyans, so their power levels would range from 2 to 4,000. That said, I would put their race all around at 5 to 7,000 in terms of power. So now the crew begins to take off from the world that they had just arrived on only a year ago. Bulma pinpoints the planet's location, and they all head off. It only takes about a month for the warriors to arrive, and they don't really do much image training along the way, as they're still kind of tense with most of each other. And the ones who aren't are mostly far apart in strength, so their boost wouldn't be too big regardless. Oh yeah, and to put into perspective what time we're currently at, Raditz had arrived a year and 11 months before where we're at. This means we passed the Vegeta saga 10 months ago, and the Frieza saga 9 months ago. By the time the crew arrives, they see Frieza soldiers being destroyed by only 3 Kanassans. Kakarot noticed that there are many evil presences on this planet, and one massive one as well. Everyone decides to keep their energies low to not attract too much attention, and Vegeta confirms that these energies must be Dodoria, Zarbon, Kui, and Frieza. And so the group splits into 2. The ones who want to help save the Kanassans, and the ones who want to defeat Frieza. This leaves Kakarot, Trunks, Yamcha, Gero, Shen, and Tao in the first group, while Vegeta, Nail, Nappa, Raditz, and 16 go to take on Frieza. As the second group is approaching, Frieza reads a scouter, sensing power levels that rival Captain Ginyu, and so he tells Dodoria and Zarbon to find Kui and continue rounding up the Kanassans instead. He then calls in the Ginyu Force for cleanup once he's done here. It should only take about 6 days for them to arrive, just like in canon. Just then, the second group arrives, and Frieza is shocked to see Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz back, as well as a Namekian. He also wonders how he could not detect the other's power level, and 16 explains that he is an android. Frieza boasts that he honestly does not care, and that if they back down now, he will forgive them and just allow them to join him. Of course, no one accepts this. Raditz even explains that 2 of them are stronger than Frieza himself. The Emperor then sarcastically asks for them to show him their true power, and they oblige. His scouter quickly reaches its maximum before exploding from that much power from 4 people. He screamed out, yelling that it was impossible, and lunging at Vegeta, who easily caught his wrist and threw him back. Frieza then unleashed his second form upon them, clashing hands with Vegeta. Nail interrupted this by firing on Frieza, knocking him away and angering the prince. Vegeta quickly flew toward Nail and told him to stay back, so that he alone could handle it. But this only allowed Frieza to transform yet again. With his third form, he was capable of death beaming Vegeta into the ground, leaving Nail to barely avoid them. Nail began attacking, but Frieza dodged every blow. When he snuck up from behind, the Namekian turned around and fired a mystic flash, blowing him back. Frieza then laughed, saying that he wanted to show them an ounce of his true power since they pushed him this much. They've earned their deaths. He began powering up, and we cut back to Kakarot and the rest of the crew. They come across a small city, with several Kanassans being beaten down by Kui, Dodoria, and Zarbon. Kakarot jumped in, telling the 3 Kanassans from earlier to save their people while they handled the Frieza soldiers. Kakarot, Trunks, Yamcha, Tao, Shen, and Gero all began bodying the 3 of them. They easily knocked them out, and all of a sudden, a massive energy could be felt all around. Kakarot stood firmly, saying that the Frieza guy from earlier must have been holding back until now. He turned around to the rest of the crew and told them that they had to go help the others, as not a single member of either group could handle this power alone. Little do they know that this is only a small fraction of Frieza's true power. And that is where we will be leaving part 3. Will Kakarot and the rest of the warriors be able to defeat Frieza and save the Kanassans? You'll have to wait until the next part. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this part, and share it with a friend. But as always, like the video if you enjoyed, tell me what you think will happen next, comment your requests for future videos, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.